Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Wow, it is January 22nd already. Unbelievable, right? Hey, thank you for tuning in to the AskZena radio show on the Good News radio station, being part of the Good News family. Woo, it is chilly in here today. So, wow, how are you? How has your year begun? What's going on? What have you got planned in this new year, this new season, this new decade, right? Wow, so many things. I have been super swamped, and we've done some pre-recordings and had some stuff, on the podcast that have been pre-recorded and a couple of shows I missed. So, I'm pretty transparent. Just a lot going on. So I'm going to get it together. I've been planning and working and making some things happen, and there's still so much to happen. But thank you so very much if you continue to listen to my podcast. I hope that it's informative. I hope that you get some information. Going to continue to share some nuggets with you just as we go on throughout the year. Let me just say that I'm going to be doing more live events, and so I'm going to try to take my podcast on the road with the help of some podcast training. Hey, you need to check out the our website, because Keith, the Good News Man, is actually doing some podcast training. So for those people who are interested in using their voice, sharing their content, whatever's going on in your mind and you want to have a podcast, you need to check out Keith on the goodnewsradiostation.com so that he can help you, coach you, right? And so that's really what it's going to be about this year, is coaching, training, growth for me and for the people that I associate with. So let me tell you about a couple of things that your coach, AskZena, is going to have going on. I am going to be doing a couple of free workshops in Culver City, Westchester area. One is going to be job search and resume review. So if you're looking for a job and you want to participate in this free workshop, it's limited seating. I think I'm only going to have a small group. I say small group, but it's only going to be about 50 people, and they're going to get my undivided attention to look at their resume, to talk about job search. So that's going to be a free workshop. It's going to be followed up by a more intensive workshop where I'm actually going to share all of my tools and tricks and insider recruiter secrets on how to find a job. So let me just back up real quick. I was coaching a friend of mine, and I told her about writing this person, this leader in this organization, a letter, putting her cover letter together and then tailoring her resume. From that, she got a phone call in a pile of probably hundreds of candidates. She got a phone call within, I want to say, 3 days, and now she's waiting for the second interview. So the tricks and the tips and the techniques and the hacks that I'm going to share with you, they work. They will get you seen, and you'll stand out amongst all of those people who are looking for a job, regardless of your background. It's all about packaging. So that's going to be coming up. And then I'm also going to be doing some healing and revealing workshops. I'm all about the metaphysics, the meta person, getting yourself whole, using alternative, creative, natural ways to heal yourself from the inside out. And I'm also talking about love, because you have to be healed from the inside out in order to attract and radiate love and have it come to you. Sounds kind of crazy, but let me tell you, once you work on yourself, you will attract people into your life rather than going from one bad relationship to a next bad relationship, to blaming other people, to blaming your significant other or your ex-partner that it's their fault or they cheated. Let me tell you, there's a common denominator, and that's you. And so one thing that you need to know about AskZena, which is me, is I am all about getting you to the right place to start experiencing your divine life, right? Living an abundant life, whatever that looks like for you. Hey, I want to help you do that. So if you want to know anything about my workshops, reach out to me on Facebook, Zena Contreras, or AskZena, Instagram, AskZena, Coach AskZena, or you can email me directly, coach.askzena@gmail.com. And so definitely get in touch with me, because I'm all about helping people this year. It's about being of service, but it's also about training and growing. So today, thank you again for tuning in. You know, this is going to be a little bit different than any of my topics that I've had before. But if you know me and you've listened to me before, you know that I'm going somewhere with my conversations. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was something that I saw on Netflix. And there were some things about it that I thought were rather interesting. There were some things about it that I think are really relevant to some of the life experiences that I'm aware of through colleagues and through friends and through friends and family and so forth. So today I want to talk about the Netflix docuseries, The Mind of Aaron Hernandez. You guys know of Aaron Hernandez, right? You know, the football player, the young guy. You know, I highly, highly, highly recommend you to watch the docuseries, The Mind of Aaron Hernandez. Like, this is something that I would have never watched because, first of all, I don't know anything about football. I never would have watched football. I don't really do murder things. I mean, I'm a Downton Abbey girl. The other thing is, like, I watch the Great British Bake Off. Like, those are my shows. I don't really deviate. Yeah, maybe I'll watch, I don't know, Housewives from time to time. But like, if I'm watching television, trust me, I am not the person you want to sit next to watching television, because I am boring. I've seen Downton Abbey, probably the whole series of Downton Abbey, from beginning to season, I think 6, right? Okay. I've seen it 11 times. Yeah. I know you're probably saying, like, you need to get a life. I just enjoy the show, right? And so I just watch the same things over and over. But wanted to talk about The Mind of Aaron Hernandez, because a couple of things that came up for me as I was watching this shattered being, and this portrayal of who he is. Obviously, he was a successful, he was a wonderful, amazing, gifted, talented athlete. And he had the ability to shift his mindset into different dimensions. He could become super, super focused, laser focused, and had an end result. But then he also could be very violent and have this temper. And all of this, the premise behind this was that he was living a double life. And he was living a double life in this macho, football game, right? Where you couldn't talk about being gay or bisexual. And so, so we're going to take a different tone with this, and we're going to take a different stance with this. And all of this is of my opinion. So if you don't like it, I'm sorry, turn me off. But I think that the point that I'm going to get to, I think that you might, it might expand your thought once you listen to what I have to say and watch the docuseries. So Aaron had a father who was an athlete as well, and I'm not going to try to go into too much about the show because I really want you to see it. But the point that I took was that it was very difficult for him to live this life and have the experiences that he had and have the experiences that he participated in a world where men are men and it's football and, they're I never understood them spanking each other on the bottom, but now spanking each other on the bottom or high five or whatever has a different connotation if you are perceived as homophobic or homosexual or it's both homophobic and homosexual. So there's those people who are like, no, get those people away from me, those people, right? And I'm going to define that just a little bit. We're all human beings, so there's no such thing as those people, even when you're talking race or you're talking sexuality or you're talking culture or you're talking ethnicity. There's no such, in my mind, okay, this is my show. And so there's no those people, right? But then there's people who have different sexuality or different preferences from the Homo sapiens, which and it's okay. The one thing that I want to say about this movie that hit me is there was a time where Aaron was on the phone and his calls were recorded while he was in prison, and he was talking to someone and he was talking about those people, transgender people, gay people in prison. And he was like, yeah, they're out there and they're, what's wrong with them? And I want to stay away from them and all of these things, knowing that, so I say knowing, allegedly, based upon some of the information was there, that he actually had a relationship with a guy, right? In high school and a little bit in college. So those people that are homophobic typically are people who bash other people for their preferences, their sexuality, and that's not right. But when Aaron was on the phone and he said, hey, so do you think these people are born this way? That hit home for me, and I'm going to tell you why. So I, 53 years old, I did not encounter or experience gay people until really I started to work for Disney. And then working in entertainment, I realized that there's a large population of gay people that work in entertainment. And I was an adult. I think I was in my sort of late 20s. So I was oblivious because I didn't have that exposure. Unfortunately, I had other exposures, but I didn't have that exposure. In my high school, there was one gentleman, we called him Spanky, heavyset Hispanic guy. And he had a little bit of a feminine personality from time to time, but everyone thought that it was because he was very, very overweight, and so he would be a little over dramatic. And that was my only experience. He never even came out to me. Actually, he is a drag queen right now. I found him on Facebook, and he's doing some things out in Florida, which is great. Like, own your identity, own your purpose, own who you are, own what feels good to you, right? But Aaron Hernandez was quite confused because he had an experience, allegedly. He had an experience when he was a child. Someone took advantage of him, and then he allegedly had experiences in high school, and the person who was in a relationship with him is actually on the show. So the premise was that he was always fighting his inner demon, his inner ego about his sexuality. being in this man's man world where people are homophobic, football, professional football, and all of this. And the premise was that this was eating him up inside. And so where I say that that's really relevant today is we have individuals that are broken and confused, that are walking around, and they're either being bullied or they are internalizing some serious things about who they are. Now, I personally believe, and you can blast me, you can do whatever you want, but I have to stand up for my beliefs. And so I personally believe that gay people are born gay. And I'll tell you why I believe that way. I believe that way because as a mother of two men, I believe, and I have done my research to say that, think about it this way. You know how the eggs split off, right? And then the sperm will be implanted or not implanted, but go into these two sperms, right? I don't know the medical terms. And it will split out and it will become a set of twins. Well, that's the same way that hormones can be off balance. You think about my youngest son was born with club feet, and they said that was a hormonal imbalance within me that caused that deformity and for his feet not to develop the way they properly should have. So if you think about it from that perspective, that there is a hormonal chemistry change that happens in the wound that may not be, I don't want to say normal, but may not be, that may cause some differences in terms of the growth and in terms of the development of a baby within a mother's wound. And so I believe that happens. And so maybe, men get more of the feminine, or maybe when women get more of the masculine. I mean, nowadays we have children who, little boys are playing with dolls, right? And so back in the day, because of my age, it would be like, no, heck no, he can't play with a doll. He's going to be a sissy. But maybe that is a preview of who that person is and who that person is gravitating to in their growth and development. So if you have, someone who is a girl who is more tomboyish, maybe at the core of who she is, that's where she's gravitating to, and maybe it never fully develops. I mean, I know grown men who were married for 15 years and went on and had families, but yet they came out of the closet. Heck, look at Grace and Frankie and Grace. That's another Netflix show that I really like. They were married to these attorneys for 20 years or 40 years, I think. 40 years. And 20 years of their marriage, their husbands were in this this gay extra relationship. So going back to Aaron Hernandez, I'm not going to tell you what happens at the end, but it really is sad. It's sad because internally he was struggling, and internally at the point where things were turning around, he then decided that this just wasn't worth it. And so I think that I wanted to stress today was really about what's going on internally. And so everything that I do is really about a mindset and putting yourself in the right mindset for living your best life. And whatever your best life is, I'm just talking about the show, the docuseries Aaron Hernandez. And you can see this guy really struggled because he was so successful, a multimillionaire, had a fiance, had a baby, so many people looked up to him, but yet he struggled and he constantly moved back and forth to the other side of the fence, in a couple of aspects of his life. And so I want to go into this just a little bit further, because what happens is when your spirit is conflicted, when your spirit within yourself is conflicted, it will come out in bursts of anger, resentment, shame, maybe even violence. Maybe it may look like narcissism. Maybe it might look like manipulation. It may even look like criminal activity, because you're conflicted. Now, I'm not saying that every conflicted person is gay or concerned about their sexuality. I'm saying that at the core of confliction, there probably is some sort of hormonal imbalance, or there's also some sort of violation. Now, violation does not have to mean that, you were sexually violated. A violation for a child or a trauma, or even a child in the womb, if you do any studies on narcissism, you'll know that narcissism is an emotional disorder. And basically it is an early childhood trauma, or a trauma that happened in the womb, or a generational trauma. And those things that the mother can pass on, or even the father can pass on, depression and those sorts of things to a child, even though, the child hasn't even been born yet. So I come from a family of, they used to say that, there's certain things that are cursed because it happened in several generations. And I come from a family that some things happen in multiple generations, and they may continue to happen now. I don't know. I'm not really in touch with a lot of family members, but so one person could think that that's generational, right? And I do have gay people. I do have bisexual people. I have people that were sexually confused and now they're married. I have people like that in my family, cousins and distant cousins and so forth. And so we didn't grow up that way, or we didn't know anything about different sexualities and those sorts of things. But what we did have is we had some early childhood trauma. Now, does that mean that that's a learned behavior because someone was molested, that they're then going to be gay or bisexual? No. There are instances where I believe that people experiment, I told people before that I was a victim of molestation. And so what happened for me is there was a period in my life, in my early 20s, that I was promiscuous, and I dated a lot of people. And so what happens is when there's a trauma, a lot of times it alters your belief system in who you are. And it alters that to make you think of what you're only worthy of, which is typically less than. So I'm bringing this back to me. Follow me, because I'm doing this dance. Ask Zena, the Ask Zena show, she's always doing this dance with her words and stuff. And so going back to what happened to me, because that happened to me early childhood, it started to resonate that this was an aspect of my life that people were drawn to me, and that I could use, or that I was taken advantage of. And if I said no, then maybe someone didn't really like me. I had to do this to get people to like me or whatever. So I'm going somewhere. When you talk about people who have had early childhood traumas, whether it's sexual traumas or whatever, typically they fall in the behavior of what actually happened to them. So the example that I'm trying to make here with myself is I had early childhood sexual traumas, being molested, and then in my 20s I became promiscuous, and then in my 30s I really went on a complete sabbatical and just just trying to understand who it is and what it is that I wanted out of life, because I didn't want that hurt and I didn't want to engage with different people. So I went on a complete sabbatical to find out who I am and what I am. And then I found my spiritual growth and development. But if you are stuck in that trauma, which a lot of people are because they don't have a strong conviction in their faith or in their beliefs. That's the one thing that I did not hear Aaron Hernandez speak of as it related to him. I never heard him in this docuseries talk about God as it relates to him. His cousin had cancer and he was like, yes, we're going to trust that God's going to heal that. But never once did I hear that he had a conviction or a belief in a higher power. So as he was struggling and as I struggled, for me, I did have a strong conviction and I did have a strong faith, even though these things were happening to me. And so I even experienced being bullied and experienced those stereotypes of, but it was because of the behavior that I was engaged in. So it wasn't all crazy. Don't go crazy with it. Don't start thinking really crazy. But anyway, nevertheless, going back to this docuseries, this was a conflicted man. This was a conflicted man because he had, you'll have to see, there were some things that were going on in his home with his mom and dad. I highly encourage you to watch the show and just be open-minded. I have a completely different viewpoint on who he was versus all of that limelight stuff. And I really believe that if he were open, then he would have received the help that he needed to receive. And so here's where I'm going to share with you guys today. Really, if you know of someone, who's conflicted, I think that we are a society where we just are in judgment so quick, judgment of people's behaviors, judgment of what they've done, what they didn't do. And then we move them out of our sphere, out of our circle, just because we're in judgment. But trust me, a lot of times when you're in judgment, basically is saying to yourself, if you did some inner reflection, you don't know and you don't understand. So judgment is about you don't know and you don't understand. And a lot of times the person who is acting out, they don't know and they don't understand. So they are thinking that other people are judging them. So they're going to continue the pattern of destruction and destructive behavior. I know I've done a lot today. I've done a lot today in terms of sharing with you, and thank you so very much for tuning into the ZENA radio show. But I'm going to talk about this a little bit more because I have a friend whose son, I saw him grow up and early on I was like, and that person was just so into the Bible and into religion and into, hell and brimstone and damnation and all that, couldn't see their own son and couldn't see what was going on then. And fortunately now it's all sort of, leveled out and both parties are very happy. But when someone is not accepted and they're not accepted for a long period, or they feel that they're not accepted, there has to be a repercussion for that. And that's the point I'm trying to make. They're going to act out. And they're probably going, so that old saying is any attention will do, good or bad. They're going to act out in ways that may look as if they're bad people, may look as if they're a criminal, may look as if they're flamboyant, may look as if they're a diva, may look as if they're narcissistic, may look as if all of these different things. But at the core, there's some things going on, whether it's shame, blame, non-acceptance, trauma, or other things. And so I hope without giving the story away of the docuseries. I hope that you will be open-minded, but I also hope that it will help to expand our acceptance of one another, even though we don't understand it. Even though this person personifies a particular image, even though, they are saying certain things, or they are representing a certain demographic or culture or being, but yet what they're displaying is not in alignment sometimes with what their words are, because maybe they just don't know. So really, I want to close today with talking about just acceptance and acceptance of people. So there's stereotypes of people who are out there that we don't understand, and we're just perpetuating more of that negativity, more of that anger, more of that hate when we participate in those stereotypes, when we bully people because they're different, when we don't accept people because we don't understand them. Heck, you don't have to. You can simply walk away. The easiest solution to non-acceptance is just walk away. Agree to disagree that we have indifferences. Agree to disagree that we are different, that we are unique creations and emanations of the higher source, God, whatever you want to call it. Not it, but the higher source. Because people I don't know if I call it God. I call it the universe, call it spirit, one source, whatever. Whatever. I'm just trying to tell you my beliefs and what I'm wanting to express to you today. And I know that it's, I've gone, into like the movie, and I've talked about bullying, and I've talked about, molestation, and I've talked about a lot of different things, but here's where I want to leave you today. Again, we are all unique. But we are all created from the one source. And the one source that we are created from is divine, is amazing, is purity of heart and spirit. And so I ask you today to expand yourself. And if you can't expand yourself, to understand that when people are acting in certain behaviors or acting out, or you don't understand, it's because you don't understand. Because there's an underlying issue, or there's an underlying situation that hasn't yet been revealed. And the easiest way, so let's talk about tolerance. The easiest way for you not to perpetuate a stereotype, for you not to bully, for you not to gossip, for you not to hold someone in a different regard than you hold yourself, is to simply walk away. Because the world is filled with people who will align themselves with your beliefs. The world is filled with people who will align themselves with other beliefs. Why have the contrasts? Now, if you're a person who wants to have the contrast, meaning you're a person who's going to bully someone because of their beliefs and that are not in alignment, or you don't understand their behavior, or you don't understand their sexuality, chances are that you're probably broken as well. We all are, right? I'm so shattered. Crazy glue couldn't even put me together and hold me together. But my daily practices keep me in alignment with what I need to do. And sometimes I fall way off, like I really do. But, I just really wanted to share with you, at the end of the day, that you can walk away from someone that you don't understand. Because if you go back to the movie and you listen to my podcast and then you go back to the movie, basically, I wish Aaron Hernandez would have walked away and took more time to express what was going on. That's it. I know that I did this song and dance, but I just really wanted to be, I was very passionate about, after, because I watched the whole show, the whole docuseries, and and turned around and watched it again, because that's just the type of person I am, because I'm a repeat person. But I learned so much, and I learned so much about people, and I learned so much about how to not gossip and be in judgment of other people, but to just walk away myself, and realize that we are all different. We are all different, and it's okay. So there's more that I could share with you about the docuseries, but I don't want to mess it up for you. I don't want to reveal, too much. I definitely highly think that you should look at it. And I hope that if you've listened to my podcast, you'll look at it differently versus someone who's going to look up at it, and be very homophobic, like, oh, this is just another one of those type of things. It's not just another one of those type of things. And when you spew out stuff like that, oh, it's just another one of those type of things, you are perpetuating negativity out into the universe. And we're going to talk about that because, that's going to be one of my podcasts, because I really want you guys to understand how perpetuating just that, it's one of those type of things, fuels your environment for negativity and fuels your what it is trying to evolve in your life with negativity. We've got to clean some of this stuff up right now. We've got to clean some of this stuff up because there are some dynamic things that are happening in people's lives, and there are some dynamic things that should be happening in people's lives, but people are spewing a lot of fuel and causing negativity to just be illuminating in their space. And so anyway, thank you so very much for tuning in to the AskZena radio show. It was a delight. Thank you for letting me share. I know that I ramble, but hey, that's just me. That's just part of what makes me a little quirky and a little eclectic and makes Zena, right? So you guys have a wonderful week. I know that I was cutting it short, but I'm going to try to keep the podcast to about 45 minutes going forward. I've got some great things to share with you. Hey, don't forget that if you know someone who needs to find a job and they want to attend my free workshop in Culver City, Westchester, it's going to be on a Saturday. It'll be like a 2-hour event where I'll actually look at everyone's resume, give them my honest opinion, share some tools, techniques, and tricks, hacks with them to help them find a good job. So basically it's going to be, it's going to be get seen, get interviewed, and get hired. So if you know someone who's looking for a job, or you want to find a better job, or you need some HR advice and you don't want to do that in your company, but you feel like you can come to a workshop and you want to sit and chat with me, reach out to me on all the social media platforms, AskZena, Zena Contreras, or you can email me directly, coach.askzena@gmail.com. I'm going to give you more information. It's going to be towards the latter part of February. I'll give you information, location, and dates for the free workshops. We're also going to be doing Healing Revealing, just a lot of wonderful things coming up in 2020, right? All right. You guys have an amazing day and knock it out of the park. Achieve and live your best life.